Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Mr. Ashwini Tambi with us as our Researcher Celebrity. A brief introduction of Mr. Tambi. He has done his BTech from NIT Warangal and Corporate MBA in Marketing from Symbiosis. Mr. Tambi had 27 years of industry experience globally and now is a certified career counselor, also helping students more like transform more than 5,000 candidate careers across 25 cities in India and 5 countries. With this brief introduction, I just would like to welcome Mr. Ashwini at the platform by saying thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and glad to be here with you, Mr. Raja. Wonderful opportunity. Appreciate you inviting me for here. I'm here to add value for our students and professionals in ways that they can get enriched out of it. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for your kind words. And we always start our question about how people become, chose to be in research. But for you, I have a special question for today that you have been into software product research and development, and now you are into career planning and counseling. So, in what ways has research been a part of your professional journey?
I'm glad that you're asking and you're actually opening the conversation with that. Indeed, research has been one of the fundamental, essential element of my entire journey, right? To be more specific, as you said, about 27 years of my overall professional journey, starting from 1997 when I stepped out of NIT Warangal, and I'm a proud alumnus of NIT Warangal for sure, right? So the first 20 years which I spent in IT industry, and then I laterally moved into building careers for the youth, right? Now, this first 20 years, in a lot of ways has taught me very deeply in terms of what research is all about and how it can be utilized in many ways. It is indeed such a valuable, I would say, experience, and it has kind of polished me so well in terms of now performing and helping youth to build their careers by means of career planning,
Mhm.
right? Now, so talking in terms of IT industry, right? Of course, as you rightly said, I have been into majority of my experience has been into product R&D, right? Whether I was working at HP or I was working at Huawei Technologies or a couple of other organizations earlier, it has always been into the space of product R&D. So, research is not just about trying to discover, figure out. It is about, uh, you know, uh, trying to figure out a lot of prior knowledge, combining them, connecting them in ways that we are able to generate greater value out of it, right? So it is more value driven. It is not just discovery driven. And this is how something pretty much throughout my R&D journey, whether I have been as a technologist or I had been as more into the management ladder, either way, research has been an essential part of the overall engagement that I used to have. Now, coming to the recent about 7+ years that I have been into running this venture by name CareerACER, and helping out youth in terms of career planning. Uh, I myself never knew before I started that it is going to be so research intensive kind of an engagement. Every single person whom I come across who needs guidance, that there is there is always something very unique about the person, right? So first of all, getting into a deep discovery mode, right, and then researching a whole lot of things around him from a career development so that we can carve out a niche for his or her career. Now, carving out that niche, and that is where research being utilized as a matter of value addition. And that's how I look at it. That's how I live my everyday.
Great. And this is, we always say that for being a researcher, you don't need a PhD because researcher is the way you look at things.
Yeah.
The observations, those minute observations makes you a researcher, not a degree or anything else. the way you can discover things. And as you mentioned, that we will talk about this value driven versus discovery driven, because if we talk in general communities, people think if you are a researcher, you are discovering something. But now, with fast paced research these days, now we are also working about value driven, that how whatever is available there, how we can add value to it, or even as simple as cutting down the cost. If you can cut down that by 50%, it is a big contribution to the field of research, and
Right.
for the bigger benefit of community, So
Yes.
I will start this with because we are talking about research and development in information technology, IT, which is
Hmm.
very fast paced.
Yes.
Researchers in life sciences have this breather, I will say, as
Hmm.
compared to IT, and I will leave it up to you, the way you want to
Hmm.
acknowledge it. But
Hmm.
in IT, it is like you have to come up with a product, or
Hmm.
with, debugging, as simple as like if there is a bug, you have to debug it as fast as. So the experience you spent almost 2 decades in Huawei Technologies, as you mentioned, HP, HCL, how challenging was that? And then how you overcome all those stress, struggles, which we can help the other researchers in IT who are listening to this conversation.
Right. So first of all, segregating that how you handle and overcome versus the stress parts.
Hmm.
Let's keep them separate here,
Yeah,
right? Stress can come because of thousand different reasons,
sure.
right? And it is our ability to manage the stress. So
Mhm.
stress really has nothing to do with research per se, right? Even without doing that, also you can remain stressful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep that aside, right? If you really enjoy researching on that and figuring out, like for example, when you're touching upon IT, let me recall something like maybe 10, almost like 15 years back, like in my early days in HP, and we were working on a system manageability solution. And
Mhm.
this was like completely from scratch that we were trying to develop that product. And in those days, there was this, I'm just trying to use a little bit of jargon here and there.
Mhm.
Not everyone might understand, but it's still, if you allow me, like there were things like common information model, CIM. There was this DMTF as an industry body called Distributed Management Task Force. So there were certain data modeling, concepts which were available there. And for us, it was about, what kind of model do we want to use in terms of developing this new age kind of a system manageability solution. In that whole process, what kind of, the middleware we want to use, what kind of a database connectivity we want to use, what kind of research we need to do in terms of understanding what kind of a user interface that we want to extend to the end customer out there, keeping in mind the changing habits of the user, right? I'm still talking about like something in the times of 2004, 5, 6, which is like almost like about 18, 20 years back, right? So those days, the user interface and the kind of online browser based were still fairly nascent as compared to today, right now. So there were a lot of these small research activities that you do which combine into a larger outcome, right?
Mhm.
And there was nothing unique in terms of what we were researching, because contemporary, if you see, when you want to develop a product, there are a lot of questions which you need to answer, right? It's fundamentally what you ask is what you get,
Yes.
right? So a quality question can lead you to a quality answer depending upon what kind of a research approach you adopt there. But in the first place, if you don't have a quality question itself, right, there is a big question mark on the quality of answer itself,
Mhm.
right? So there are many such kind of activities which are a part and parcel of the overall product R&D life cycle, right? A part of overall product R&D life cycle. I had been fortunate enough to have witnessed the very early stages of product conception
Mhm.
all the way till the time of, working on product obsolescence,
Mhm.
right? And that too in a enterprise customer environment where you have a pretty long, life cycle of a product. You don't switch to upgrades and changes in products in an enterprise segment. So talking about product obsolescence itself is a big thing,
Mhm.
right? It's a long drawn process. Even there also, a lot of research in terms of the best practices and approaches and how smooth we can make the journey for our end customer for this product X to be obsoleted in favor of product Y, right? So I have been fortunate enough to be a part of that particular journey as well. So all put together, there are lot of spaces where incremental research enables us to discover prior knowledge,
Mhm.
combine them, make use of them in a manner that you create a more meaningful outcome for the specific purpose that you are onto.
Mhm.
Right.
Nice.
So this is how I look at in terms of IT industry, and indeed, the way technologies are evolving pretty fast, that gives a much faster pace to everything that happens in general in IT industry compared to, as you said, life sciences. Uh, for variety of reasons, it is a lot regulation driven, compliance driven. It is about it is about the health and life of living beings out there. So naturally, the constraint under which the life sciences research happens is way different than the constraints under which maybe IT industry research and development happens.
True. But one thing I can say that which remains constant in both of the places is the stress which comes with
Yeah,
research. So,
right.
how you have handled your teams, and based on your experience, how you can tell the upcoming generation of researchers who are still in that struggle.
All right. So let me talk about my recent experiences in the recent years as a part of this overall career planning and career counseling that I'm doing. And every day in, day out, there are incremental researches. As you rightly said, it is not about PhD, it is about being able to discover and make value out of it.
Mhm.
Now, uh, to me, it is a matter of joy rather than stress. And I'll tell you how, right? Because when I have a clear objective, I might not have a clear path. I might not have a clear step by step approach of figuring out. But if I have clear objective, what is it I'm looking for? What is it I want to research for? What is it that I'm eventually looking for, either developing or concluding or deciding A versus B, whatever it may be. So long as we are clear on our objective, right? That the progress we make gives us the joy of having done it.
Mhm.
Because we can self-assess as to, are we leading in the right direction? Are we getting distracted? Are we achieving our purpose? And once you achieve the purpose, you have a sense of having achieved it, right? To me, genuinely, it adds a sense of joy saying, yes, I did it. Or, yes, this is what I was trying to figure out. I think I have now related. So this particular candidate where I want to connect with his certain set of primary skills and secondary skills and his key interest areas, and then I want to really get into the depth of which kind of the most optimal track that I want to recommend with enough substance to support it. That enough substance to support is a matter of research,
So true.
right? And so when I connect all the things together and put that, I first like to see, right? Is it making sense? Is it really going to help? Is it something which can actually, you know, enable this person X for whom I'm trying to, provide the right guidance? And when I get my inner answer saying yes, it makes sense. Now that's when it's a matter of joy and not a matter of stress for me. That's how I look at it.
That's a very nice way to put it in there. We had researcher celebrities saying the same thing, that if you love what you are doing, then the chances of stress is so negligible because you are enjoying what you are doing. And that
Yes.
is one thing which we always say at these in these conversations, that do whatever makes you happy. And if research happens to be that, then you are in the perfect path, because nobody should be in or under stress 200 days a year or 100 days a year. Stress, as you mentioned, even if you are not doing research, there is no way that you are not facing the stress. You are under some or
Mhm.
the other kind of stress, which is part of life. A healthy stress is
Yes.
also sometimes helping people to do a little bit more than what they think they can do when they say that pushing the limits. So that is
Yes.
their way. But I like the
Right.
way you said, and this is for all the audience who are listening to this
Mm.
conversation. Mr. Thambi mentioned about the incremental research, and everything starts with a clear objectives. That is the first thing which you should know, that either you are committing for a PhD or choosing research as your career, that what you are actually going to achieve with that. If your objective is very clear, then you always have people to help to navigate the path through. Then it comes like what resources you have, or sometimes what it takes if you have that. Like if you are thinking of pursuing a career in life sciences, it might take 10 hours of work or 8 hours of work on a 300-day basis for the year. Can you, like, if you think you can do that, then only commit to it, because this is also one of those important part. And then the two steps, once you are committed, you have joined it, now comes to the progress and the assessment. Is it what you thought it will be? The progress milestone changes all the time based on the assessment, what you have done. So, based on this, I would like to ask Mr. Ashwini that when now you are actively working with students for navigating their path, probably
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned clearly about everyone has their own niche, and you
Yes.
have to do a lot of research in that.
Yes.
So I will ask that all the 2 decades of experience in managing teams in
Mm-hmm.
IT, okay, that has helped you in your current role.
Yes.
How does
It
that?
has indeed helped me a lot. It
Mm-hmm.
has indeed helped me a lot. Good that you are trying to bring about that connection. Um, uh, Indeed, it has helped tremendously, and even as of now, I tend to utilize a lot of practices which I have learned, which I have adopted in yesteryears in my IT experience. Uh, be it in terms of uh, you know uh, think of a project, think of an agile methodology, right? You have a definite start and a definite end, and then you have a certain process to follow. Now, sounds very simple, but it is very important that we actually do it in a meaningful way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of those project management practices, a lot of those practices where when we were managing teams, uh, I recall a lot of the one-on-ones I used to do earlier. Of course, I have made many mistakes. There is no doubt about it, right? Every one of us do it. I have my own fair share of many mistakes I must have done in the past, right? But then trying to improvise. In fact, now when I conduct a lot of these counseling sessions with the young people, whether they are like the school students, I mean high school students, or whether they are young professionals, mid-career professionals, there is a very deep conversation in a very open-ended manner. Now, this whole this whole understanding, this whole experience of how to get into an open-ended conversation, right, is something which comes a lot with the prior experiences I have had. A lot of analytical aspect. Invariably, as a part of our job, we always used to analyze a variety of data, whether they are people-related data, whether they are project, defects-related data, customer experience-related data, whether there is the data about planning-related, variety of different data, and we make use of it to be able to do whatever next that we want to do. So invariably, it is data-driven analytical approach, right? And thankfully, God has blessed me with fairly good amount of analytical skills, which I essentially utilize in the ongoing, counseling process as well, right? One more specific, I mean, I can go on, but maybe let me just touch upon two, three such kind of key experiences out there. Um, a lot in terms of written down approach.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of written down. I mean, this probably someone can call me as an old school guy. So be it, right? We are into a chat GPT and generative AI era where things have transformed a lot, and of course we need to make use of those tools and technologies as well. But nevertheless, this entire capacity of jotting down quickly, capturing the things, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that whole sense of making minutes of meeting. right? It is such a valued skill which helps me a lot every single day as a part of all the conversations that I do, right?
Mhm.
So there are many such kind of experiences, including those when I used to manage teams and when I used to discuss with some of my team members in terms of what kind of career path, how do you want to look forward to, and how do you want to develop. There were few of them who used to be clear about it, and there were many others who really didn't have much of an understanding, right? All of these have added fuel to considerations that there is a lot to be done in that space. So I bring all of those experiences and help the youth now to plan and build their career forward. So
Mhm.
if I may sum up kind of my answer in this manner, right? There are sometimes people who just want to choose something different,
Mhm.
right? Oh, I have been doing this. I want to choose something different. This particular path everyone is doing. I want to choose something different, right? And all I say is that it is not always about choosing different, right? Wherever you are, it is about creating different,
Nice.
right? So choosing different, as in, God is not going to create another career path by some XYZ name for you,
Mhm.
but it is more about creating different, and that's how you carve out a niche for yourself. Okay, so that's one of the things which is always in the back of my mind as I enable the people to identify the right career path and move on that. So more than choosing is vital, but having chosen that, it is more about creating different in the ways you do things.
Nice. I think now this brings us to the next question about the seekers, I will say. The researchers happen to be seekers. So there are things which everyone has their own strengths, own weaknesses. Based on your experience on, I like this, choosing different or creating different, what you can suggest them that the things they should be very specific while making a career choice. Like say,
Mhm.
students is in the dilemma of going for a PhD or for an MBA. How will you
Mhm.
navigate this?
All right. So let me just understand clearly. What you're talking about is that the choices that they want to make, how, and the example you've chosen is PhD versus MBA,
Mhm.
that how they should navigate this is
Yeah.
what you're trying to
Yes.
tell back.
Mhm.
Okay. And indeed, this is the fundamental pertinent question with which the entire counseling most of the times begins. That
Okay.
I'm not sure or I'm confused. I want to figure out, or
Hmm.
either I have two things in mind and I'm confused about them,
Hmm.
or there are many things and I'm confused, or probably there is nothing in my mind and I'm confused.
Okay.
It could be either way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there could be a problem of plenty, or there could be a problem of scarcity. It could be either way, right? But net, it is all about how do I figure out, how do I make choice, and how do I navigate forward, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
uh, answer lies in this way, right? I always help people to understand what is your core and what is your periphery,
Hmm.
right? When I talk about your core, right, your core comprises of your uh, your key capabilities, your core interest areas. What is it that gives you natural joy, happiness, sense of accomplishment,
Hmm.
right? You have certain personality aspects to it. There are certain belief systems that you have, and I help them discover all of them. There
Hmm.
are certain assessments also that we do, certain psychometric assessment, which also helps us, right? So putting all of them together to first help the individual identify and define what your core is,
Hmm.
right? And then there are many other elements which are like secondary elements which touch upon you, but they are not your vital element,
Hmm.
right? And they define your periphery around it,
Hmm.
right? Once someone gets a sense of that, and both in visual sense as well as in the actual content sense, that is when we we start our journey of now how should I choose my career. So very simple, the career path that I want to choose, right, the core of that job responsibility, the core of that profession, what it expects you to do should align with your course, The core of that respective profession, let's say if you are thinking about X, Y, and Z, right? So then out of them, what is it which aligns much better with your core so that you have a greater synergy out there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? For example, there's a certain career where it is intensively in terms of applying a lot of data-driven analytical stuff. That's the heart of that particular profession. There are many other things required. You need to have a user empathy. You need to have good communication skills. You also need to have a good sense of visualizing, blah, blah, blah. Quite a few things. However, at the core of it, that particular kind of a job and profession requires a lot of data driven analytical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas your core it speaks something very different.
Yeah.
Somehow, dealing with a lot of data, day in, day out, a lot of tools or, technologies or methodologies in terms of analyzing is not something which comes natural to you. Whereas for you, touching heart of people, understanding how they think, why they think, enabling them, motivating them probably happens to be your core. Now you are definitely going to get into a mismatch. Doesn't make sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? So once you've identified your core, then we go on to connect with that core of the respective job which aligns with you. So in this particular question, when you chose a specific example of MBA versus PhD, it's all about that. So PhD is more like a degree conferred upon you, but as a matter of doing that doctoral study, which field, what is it you want to get into is also equally important,
Yes.
right? Similarly, when you're talking about MBA, right? Are you doing MBA in finance versus MBA in HR versus MBA into, let's say, e-commerce or supply chain or whatever? While they have some commonalities, yet they have very distinctive space. So identifying and aligning with your core is the crux of the matter. And that's where the greater alignment we have, that's when we have a greater joy of, jumping into it, moving ahead onto that path.
Yes, absolutely. And this brings us to the next point. When in India, mostly it is like, okay, a parent want a student or their kid to become a doctor, to become engineer, to become civil servant, to join forces, whatnot, all kind of the careers are mostly decided by the parents. And after serving, or I will say suffering for a couple of years, when a person realized that, okay, as you mentioned about these two core and periphery, two integral parts of it, they feel that they are not into the sync very much. I'm sure that you
Mhm.
might have worked with the students, or I'll say the employees, like these working professionals who, after spending a decade, sometimes realize that I don't
Mhm.
like this anymore because they
Yep.
were just in their periphery. Whatever they were doing were not with the core. So for such researchers or work professionals, what you will suggest?
So any day is a good day, right? It is never too late,
Nice.
right? It is never too late. And the earlier you realize, the earlier you take courage, a bold step saying, I got to do something to realign myself, to repurpose myself, that's a good day.
Hmm.
But it takes a lot of courage. It's not that easy.
For sure.
Because the moment you think of switching from wherever you are always worried of the fear of unknown,
Hmm.
right? Because anything else that you want to jump into is like, I don't know how does it look like. I'm already these 2 years, 3 years, 4 years into it. I might as well complete. I might as well move ahead. I might as well try for another couple of years and then do. So it becomes kind of a trap and a vicious circle. And taking a judgment call is very difficult, right? The more you get ahead into that, the more it becomes difficult to make the judgment call that I need to pivot, right? I mean, you think about, let's say, in today's era, the startup industry, right? The whole the whole principle of, let's say, lean startup, that whole principle, the concept of lean is all about fail early, right? So fail early is like do your early explorations so that you identify are you on the right track or that is not yielding and therefore you pivot from there, right? Now, a similar thought process, a similar mindset needs to be there as a part of career planning also, rather than a pre-decided, bete ko engineer banna hi hai, kind of,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. More than that, it is about the right amount of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the right amount of exposure happening at the right time makes you more proactively making right choices. However, for some reason, you figure it out much later, saying things don't seem to be going well, and I just don't feel like either continuing my college course, or having done course, I don't feel like continuing my current job, whatever it is. It is time to reflect upon, think back, take help. Take at such critical juncture, there is always a professional help required,
Mm-hmm.
because someone has to establish that confidence that there is a possibility, there is a way to do it, and don't jump abruptly. Think through in detail, right? Understand the whole ecosystem. How are you going to get positioned into that ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Try out small bits and pieces here and there as like moonlighting kind
Mm-hmm.
of a thing. And once you gain your confidence, once you feel that you are prepared enough, then jump into it, right? So that you have greater confidence out there.
Absolutely.
In terms of so this is the reactive part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but slightly taking it backwards from a proactive perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are two important elements here:
Mm-hmm.
exposure and indulgence,
Mm-hmm.
right? And many times I have seen that people do not really differentiate or do not give enough importance to exposure, right? Before you decide to indulge into something, you need to have at least 5x exposure to be able to narrow down,
Yes.
right? But we want to just exactly choose that one, do one, choose one, move on. Not necessarily a good idea,
True.
right? So a wider exposure naturally evolves into choosing the right indulgence, which is your specialization, which is your chosen path, right? But we do not invest enough in exposure part of it,
True.
whether it is about participation, listening, understanding, experiencing. We don't generally, I'm talking more statistically, that not many people invest enough into exposure. And then the day comes when we want to exactly decide, it becomes quite difficult at times.
Yes. I think this will help for all the people who are either in the dilemma or are in the process of changing what they are doing currently. And one thing which we say for all the researchers, that this concept of, if you are liking what you are doing, probably will take you wherever you want to be in that field. But one thing for sure is what it takes. If you have it, then it gives you, as you mentioned, about the confidence, because the confidence comes from this. Sometimes people like, and mostly in India, what we have seen in students, this concept of imposter syndrome. I would like to take this opportunity to tell everyone here that everyone, your teachers, their teachers, 98% or 90% of the people feel that whatever they are doing, they are not good enough, because they keep the bar so high, because they want to do more value to what they are doing. And that is a good thing. But on the contrary, if you want to become someone who actively will be engaged with people and you don't have soft skills or how to talk to people, obviously this is the biggest misconduct. Now, either you can learn all of those, because there are things which now with this technology, you can learn whatever you want. But the thing is, again, Mr. Ashwini clearly mentioned, are these your core strengths, or these are the things which are in your periphery? You can do it, but it might take a toll on you. And the more you do this, the longer you do this, it gives you more and more and more pressure. Troubleshooting is one of the things. And then Mr. Ashwini also mentioned about the assessments, that periodic assessments ensures that you are, moving in the right path, because you might be moving in circles, so you travel a lot but you don't go anywhere. So for these students, I will ask specific questions that once they commit themselves that, okay, this is what they want to do. The assessment you already mentioned is very important part of like assessing the progress periodically. But even when
Mhm.
they fail into that, the role of a mentor, if you can take some time
Mhm.
to tell or to say your experience, or you have seen students taking help from their mentors. The role of a mentor, how
Yes,
critical is that?
absolutely, 100%, right? Every single person, including you and me, we need a mentor,
Yes.
right? Every single one of us. Mahatma Gandhi had a mentor,
Mhm.
Gopal Krishna Gokhale, right? So when such a father of nation had a mentor, who are we not to have?
True.
Right? So, so everyone needs that, right? Now, uh, that's where some sense of direction, hand holding, showing the mirror, right? One of the important um, aspect of mentoring is to show the mirror of where you are, reflect upon, right? And then of course also you know uh, extend a helping hand to say that come along with me, I'll take you along with me, kind of a thing in the direction that you have chosen there,
Yes.
right? So um, so it is important to have decided what you want to do and you have entered into that. However, the iterative journey that you get along there, right? Mentoring helps you to stay focused and have incremental course correction on the way, because someone who is more experienced, more seasoned, who can visualize things from a farther distance can always point you or ask you the right question. I strongly believe that one of the important aspects of mentoring is to be able to ask right questions at the right time, because that leads to discovering the right answers and moving forward, right? So that kind of a support system is vital as a matter of execution,
Mhm.
right? So many times, this so-called failure, right? I still remember first time when when I came across this beautiful definition of fail, FAIL,
Mhm.
right? First attempt in learning,
Mhm.
FAIL, right? And I really loved that expression when it hit upon first time to me. I still remember it. So fail is truly first attempt in learning, right? But it should be the first attempt and not the last
Last.
attempt.
True.
Last attempt means you have given up.
Mhm.
First attempt means there is a long journey ahead,
So true.
right? So in that whole process, mentoring definitely helps a lot in iteratively moving forward, showing the right path, asking the right questions, leading questions, which help you to stay focused and continue your journey there. So indeed, mentoring plays a vital role in your in your process of keeping focused and marching ahead there.
Absolutely. And I was fortunate enough, and I am fortunate still getting more and more, because even when you are mentoring someone, you're learning things from them. And I see it is always a two-way street. In
Yes.
my experience, that's what I have to, lived my life with. With this, I'll say to all the audience that we have discussed a lot about career choices, how to navigate those, make while making decisions, what are the things you should be more critical. Now, I will say that if you want to be in touch with Mr. Ashwini, he already is helping so many students navigating their career paths as in CareerACER, which he runs. If you want any of our researcher celebrity to help you in navigating or supporting you in your current research, you can write to us and we are there for you. And stay tuned for other episodes. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Mr. Ashwini, for having this wonderful conversation with us and igniting so many more brains. And if they were already unstable, making them more unstable for their stability so that they can make their next move. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I have really enjoyed the conversation today, and I hope it helps others as well. Appreciate your your mission, right? The one which you are, continuing your journey, empowering Science Foundation. It is indeed a wonderful platform, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for kind words. Please stay tuned for another episode of Researcher Celebrity. For now, we'll say bye. Thank you, sir.